Welcome to YOUCANIC. Today here in YOUCANIC we have a 2008 Toyota Camry, and on this Toyota Camry we're going to go over how you would replace the rear brakes. So to start with, you're going to want to jack up the vehicle, support it with jack stands, blocks, and have your tires chalked so the vehicle doesn't roll. Also, you'll want your e-brake released because you want this to spin, because the e-brake is they're drum brakes that are inside of here, and so it'll pull that cable and it'll cause this to stop. So if the e-brake was set, we wouldn't be able to spin this around. Now whoever did this before, this hole here a lot of times has a rubber grommet. That's missing also, but this hole here should be lined up over another big hole so that you can be able to put a screwdriver or a small tool in there to be able to release the springs if you need to get the drums off, the drum brakes, to loosen the drum brakes. But hopefully we're going to be okay, because sometimes there's a ridge that can build up in here, whether it's rust or whether it's the actual drum itself has worn into the rotor, or this rotor and drum thing, and then that way it won't pull off. So to start with, we're going to want to depress this caliper a little bit by getting a screwdriver in between the caliper and the disc here, and then we get some play there. So we got enough play there. You can actually push the whole thing all the way back, and then that way you don't need to use a caliper pusher, but we have enough play. We're just going to go ahead and undo it now. So on this is size 14 to undo the caliper from the carrier, and it's size 14 to undo the carrier from the hub unit itself. And on the rear brakes on this vehicle, you're not able to twist them up because of the way the brake line is, so we're just going to take the whole thing off. Okay, so I'm just going to set that up here. Do our best not to have a lot of stress on this brake cable. Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and pop these brakes out. I like to use one of the brakes to push the caliper back, and that way you don't over push it back further than the outside edge of the caliper. There we go. That's been depressed where it's been pushed back. So now we'll go ahead and remove the rest. The kit, we got this for the back. For whatever reason, doesn't have these new metal tabs, so we're just going to leave those on there. We'll clean them up with wire brush, but there's no need to pop those off like we did on the front. So again, with the size 14. Okay, we'll loosen and remove that and set that aside. Now I have to use a hammer here. So the reason I'm tapping the other side of this rotor here is to be able to try to kind of tap the brakes away from it. And you see how it was holding on there? It was holding on there in this little ridge here of rust, and these build a groove inside. So while I let that dry up, cleaned off a lot of that brake dust, and then you won't get as much squeaking when you're, squeaking going down the road when you hit the brakes. So we'll let that dry, and we'll clean this up and replace the grease in the guide pins. Pull the guide pins out. I do one at a time. So we're going to pull those guide pins out, clean off all that grease, and then we're going to put new brake caliper grease. Then insert and just make sure that that seal is sealed around there so that we can minimize the amount of dirt and water that gets in there. Okay, we're going to take our new rotor. One thing you're going to want to line up is this hole here. You want to line up with this hole here, because that's if you need to manually back these off, these drum brakes, that's where you want this access hole. If you put it up over here, then you're going to have no recourse if you need to manually adjust those to be able to get this off. So. And these are just for you to use once you get this off, but to be able to pull these springs out. And once you get it lined up already, just push it back, and we can see we've lined that hole up the way it needs to be. So now we can take our carrier and bolt it on with the 14s with the washers. These don't take washers. Okay, so we got those on. Let's tighten them up. Now you're going to take your new brake pads, and note we want to keep this curve to go with the back curve here. So I'll just take the new ones, put them in the glides there. Okay, so those are installed, slid up there. Then we'll just go ahead and put the caliper back on. And then we put the size 14s that are just a shoulder bolt without the washer. Want to tighten those up. So once you're done replacing the rear brakes, you'll want to put the tire on, lower the car, torque the tire on to spec, and then you'll definitely, before you drive off, you'll want to pump the brakes, and so that the calipers will fill with fluid, so that when you do go to stop the car, it will stop. Thanks for watching YOUCANIC, where you can be the mechanic.